Today's Patreon shout-out comes to you with thanks for Kerry Driver. Neera Wild Mage versus Etali, partners Sengir and Ishai, and Marchesa. A one-lander. Are we going to see lands on the top with an otherworldly gaze? Yeah, we could get lucky and get into a few lands off the top into a Wheel of Fortune, but I'm not going to try my luck on that one. And straight into another one-lander. Okay, two-lander with a Brainstorm and a Shuffle effect. We can get rid of some of these big creatures, and we've got a Windfall. That's actually not bad. Only had to mulligan one there, so got rid of the Djinn. Sensei's Divining Top, the first spell of the game for Etali. They also have a Mana Crypt. That takes them into a Fire Diamond, 4 cards in hand. Alright, and another wheel for us. Wheel of Fortune. Prismatic Lens for the partner player. Pilgrim's Eye will be able to search for a land. And a Mana Leak from the Marchesa onto the Pilgrim's Eye, trying to slow the Etali player down, using the 1 mana they had left to spin the Sensei's Divining Top. Turns out they kept a 1-lander over there, so we will go for the Brainstorm. The Pilgrim's Eye being countered might have been the difference between us seeing Etali and not in the next few turns. Alright, got some lands. There's an Ancient Silver Dragon and a Wheel of Fortune. I'd rather keep the Wheel of Fortune in the deck. I don't want to discard another wheel, so we'll go for Wheel of Fortune on top and the Ancient Silver Dragon as well. It's a shame that we have both of the new Ancient Dragons in hand. Haven't been able to play with them yet. But we will shuffle away that wheel. Might be imperative that we still have that in the deck later. Replicating Ring for the partner player this time. Marchesa just passing through the turn. Managing to drop a land this time after spinning with the top last turn. Throwing down Tectonic Giant. That is a Kerr Keep for us, which goes nicely with the Proteus Staff, so I think it's going to be Kerr Keep into Proteus Staff here. Going to take us a few turns to set that up, so it's just something that's going to sit on the field for a bit, I imagine. Marchesa the Black Rose being cast. Sensei's Top being spun in response. Shattered Seraph got exiled there before the turn. Another commander entering here, Ishai Ojitai Dragon Speaker. A 3rd land being dropped here, so we can see Etali. It won't have haste though. And yep, we see a 3rd commander in a row. Etali Primal Storm. Plus counter goes on the Ishai. Tectonic Giant entering the red zone against us. And they decide to deal 3 damage to each opponent as well, so we take 6 there. A Solemn Simulacrum now. Well, I was going to slowly set up the Kerr Keep and then activate this onto the Cobalt token, but don't suppose there's anything to stop us shuffling away the Solemn Simulacrum. So I might as well ramp here, get ahead a turn on mana. Tectonic Edge from Marchesa. Noteworthy that they've got a Homeward Path as well. Marchesa swinging in towards the Ojitai. It does have Dethroned, so it becomes a 4-4 against the 3-3 commander. Ugh. And then a Vandal Blast, so wiping everything out, including the Solemn Simulacrum, so we didn't get to use the Proteus Staff after all. Didn't really have anything else to do, so that's why I played this out, but typically speaking, you'd play this out and activate it straight away so that it doesn't get wiped out to an Austere Command or a Vandal Blast. Anyway, we draw with the Solemn into the Blightsteel Colossus. I'm hoping that we can get into a free spell off the top, because then we'd be able to go for our commander, play a free spell and hopefully get something out of it. All our opponents are playing out their commanders, so I'm assuming they don't want to board wipe. It might just be safe for us going for our commander anyway. A lot of black mana entering play for the Esper player. Still managing to do stuff though. That is a No Mercy, so no one will be able to swing in over there now. Then Ishai, Ojitai Master, swings in towards Marchesa, so trading 4 commander damage back and forth. Tectonic Giant swings in towards us again, as does the Etali. So that's 9 and 12 damage if they go for the Lightning Bolt on the Tech Giant again. They're exiling cards this time, so it's just 9 damage to us. Exiling off the top an X-Spell, which does nothing. An Evolving Wilds here. A Snow-Covered Island, and exiling from us an island. And then exiling with the Tectonic Giant, a Molten Disaster. And they choose a land from exile that they can play with that. So now we're round to our turn, and just like that, getting to a 0 drop. It's no guarantee that we'll really get anything off that, but let's just play the Pathway. Get our commander into play here. Another plus counter on the Dragon Speaker. So get the 2/7 into play, which can block Etali nicely. Cast the Tormod's Crypt. And then we'll say yes to Neera Wild Mage's ability. And awesome, that's lucky. Getting to a Mind's Dilation, so get to cast that for free. So now as long as our opponents keep casting spells, we can keep cheating out spells from our deck, or theirs. We can either shuffle their spells away, put it on the bottom of their libraries and grab something out of ours, or just keep the spells that we reveal. So that was a really, really lucky turn there, because we weren't looking too good. Marchesa swings in at Etali, and dethrone triggers again, so a plus counter on there. And after that, the Grixis player casts a Wartime Aspirant, and they just revealed off the top there an Urborg, unfortunately. And then a Blood Ogre is a 2-2 with First Strike and Bloodthirst, so it comes down as a 3-3. Ishai manages to drop a white land here, but it is a tap land, unfortunately. And now casting a Painful Quandary, which... we do want to cast a lot of spells, so that's not good for us. Alright, a Reanimate. What can we reanimate here? Anything? Not really. We can take Solemn Simulacrum or the Pilgrim's Eye. I don't particularly care for either, so I'll just point it at the Solemn Simulacrum. The Neera is going to trigger. Don't want to take the life to reanimate, and I'm not particularly bothered about either of those creatures anyway, so we will shuffle around and a Tidespout Tyrant. So not only is that a blocker for us, but we're going to be able to start bouncing things around. Won't be surprised if the Ishai swings in at us here. And yep, Ishai swinging in towards us. I'll take this massive hit here. It doesn't feel good, but hopefully we can leave our board state intact and really start hurting them. The mono red player going straight into combat. They have 5 lands available to them here. I think it's 5, I can't tell with the borders. No, it's still 4. The Tectonic Giant swinging in towards the Grixis player. Etali swinging in over there as well. That's really good. We've managed to dissuade them. So they get to exile a few things with Etali first. That is a Maze of Ith. They clear a land off the top for us there. A land here as well, very kindly. And they take from us, I think that's our Sensei's Divining Top, annoyingly. And they got a Sulphurous Blast as well. 2 damage to each creature and each player. They're going to have to discard a couple of cards here or take damage to the Painful Quandary. 5 cards in hand at the moment. Deciding to take the damage to the first one. Then deciding on discarding a card, that is extra planar lens. Mind's Dilation going to trigger from the first spell that was cast. And we get to exile a Doubling Cube here, so I'm not particularly bothered about keeping a Doubling Cube. We're being really lucky this game, to a certain extent we're being really lucky. Let's cast the Doubling Cube. We can bounce the... I suppose we can bounce the Painful Quandary next turn. Might be a good idea against the red player. They want to cast spells yet, and Painful Quandary will make that more difficult for them. So let's just bounce the Ojitai for now. It does count as casting with the Mind's Dilation and the Neera, so let's get rid of Blightsteel Colossus, and that does get shuffled or put back on the bottom, whichever it is. Say yes to the Neera, putting the Doubling Cube on the bottom, a Seagate Restoration. Alright, yeah, might as well cast it. Bounce the No Mercy back to hand, I think. Gonna have to discard again to the Painful Quandary, so just get rid of the Silver Dragon. Definitely want to keep the Windfall in hand if we can. Only drawing 3 cards from the Seagate Restoration because we only had 2 in hand, so it was 2 cards plus the 1. Drawing 2 some mana and Rapid Hybridization. It's a shock land that we get into, unfortunately. Anyway, the Sulphurous Blast happens and the Sensei's Divining Top lands. Marchesa triggered there. This is going to come back to the battlefield because it had a plus counter on it. The Tectonic Giant exiling some cards there. That is Wayfarer's Bauble and a land. They go after the Wayfarer's Bauble. Deciding to block the Etali with the Ogre. Like I said, it'll come back thanks to the commander. Casting Wayfarer's Bauble into the Painful Quandary. That's the first thing we'll get rid of at the beginning of our turn. Then cracking the Wayfarer's Bauble. I think they took another 5 life there. They've still got 4 cards in hand. Yeah, not seeing any new cards in the bin, so they're down to 17 thanks to the Painful Quandary, which is why we've left it in play here. And now spinning the Sensei's Divining Top. So now the Marchesa triggers at the end of the turn. And an opponent was dealt damage this turn, so the Blood Ogre comes in with Dethrone. And the Human Warrior entering without a plus counter on it. So we'll see how long we can survive here. Draw into an untapped land, so we can discard the Steam Vents to the Painful Quandary. So play out the Reflecting Pool, play out the Rapid Hybridization, I'll put that on the Etali. Tidespout bounces the Painful Quandary so that we can cast more spells. Discard the Steam Vents to that. say yes to the Neera so that we can trade it out. Alright, Cyclonic Rift. It's not overloaded unfortunately, but we'll bounce back the Marchesa. Casting that will allow us to bounce more of their creatures. We'll get the plus counter off that thing. And of course, Painful Quandary will continue to trigger here. Not going to be casting the dragon anyway, so we can discard that. Let all of this stuff resolve, so we bounce the 2 creatures and the Painful Quandary. Then we'll cast the Izzet Signet. That will allow us to bounce... Just in case we don't get into spells from our opponent, I'll bounce the Etali now. And then we'll go for the Windfall. We'll get rid of our opponent's commanders from their hands. Get rid of this thing as well. Noteworthy that I could have bounced some mana here and really messed up that opponent. So we all draw into 6 cards there, and we can hold up a mana drain. I think that's a good thing for us to keep hold of, especially with some big spells in hand. Hopefully we've slowed down our opponents nicely there. So just continue to hold up. Scab Clan Berserker is Haste and Renown. That obviously triggers the Mind's Dilation and allows us to look at a Fire Fiend Elemental. We'll put that on the bottom of their library, we'll cast it, and because I think Ojitai is really going to have it in for us, I am actually going to bounce their tap white mana here. They swung in at us with that big 11/11 Ojitai, so we can play a little bit meaner there. Neera triggers, we'll say yes, put the Elemental on the bottom of their library, gets us into, do we cast a Mana Crypt? Not the most intelligent idea, so I'll actually pass on that. And then a Blood Artist isn't... don't really like a Blood Artist either, but we'll allow it into play because we can bounce it easily enough. I don't really want to use a mana drain on that. The 2/2 Renown creature swings in towards Etali, and this swings in towards us, so yeah, this is going to become a threat unfortunately. It will become Renown, but like I said, we can just bounce it. We'll have to get rid of this creature while we've got the chance, I think. So killing this thing off, it will trigger the Blood Artist, which will drain us all for 1. And then this thing becomes Renowned, so we'll have to be careful the number of non-creature spells that we cast. Although when we do cast a spell, we'll be able to bounce that thing anyway. Oh, Blood Artist is the targeted one, isn't it? Zulaport Cutthroat does it to everyone. So obviously targeting us with that. Managing to find themselves an untapped white source, so dropping a Plains. That's a Hero's Downfall. Attempting to put that onto our Tide Spout. We'll see what happens with the Mind's Dilation first. Might be able to take us into a counterspell or something. A Sol Ring. We can't really take the 4 life here. Yeah, let's cast the Sol Ring. That will trigger the Tide Spout. We'll put Neera on the stack first. Then the Tide Spout Tyrant can bounce the Renowned creature. The Etali player just deciding to scoop. We do take 2 damage to casting the Sol Ring. And then I'll try and get into something better than the Sol Ring, I think. We want to be cheating in our big things. Well, an Omniscience is worth a trade in, I think. Play the Omniscience. Bounce that Blood Artist before it does any more damage. And now we can play the Mana Drain for free. So we'll protect our Tide Spout Tyrant. Bounce their untapped white mana, white and blue mana. And now we've got access to a Mana Drain in the bin with a Torrential Gearhulk, so they've missed their chance at going for a Swords on here. And then it is Heliod's Intervention. They're going after the Omniscience there, so we'll have to go for Torrential Gearhulk now. And that is an instant, so they could have done that before the Mana Drain hit the bin. So they might kick themselves here. Torrential Gearhulk for free. And yeah, we'll just encourage them to scoop. We have to bounce something. Yeah, everyone scoops there. So Torrential Gearhulk is going to counter with the Mana Drain the Heliod's Intervention, so we'll get 6 mana for free next turn, not that it matters with an Omniscience in play. Next turn we draw a Training Centre, and yeah, I was hoping that we could have gone Torrential Gearhulk onto the Seagate Restoration, but would have just had to go for the Etali there, I think. Maybe would have cast the Arcane Signet first, and then we could have got rid of it with the Neera, so let's see what we would have got into instead. Would have cleared the lands off the top, and that would have just been a Pongify, so would have passed on the Pongify. Yeah, so it was pretty much Etali and just sit there. I don't think our 3 opponents should have quit there. We were a long ways away from doing anything to them, and if it continued to be a 3-on-1, I dare say they would have got us there, but It's Magic Online for you, no one has any patience. So we end up taking the victory with this one. I really don't think that we would have won that one if they'd stuck it out. I'm Tribalkai. Thank you for watching.